Reflection on week 1. 3 key moments for me. The first one is set expectations for children from the very beginning. Children don't know me, and it could take a few weeks for them to remember my rules. I think when children encounter a new teacher, it's another transition for them. To make their life easier, maybe it's more convenient to observe the other teacher's rules, which children have already remembered, and set the same rules. The second one is why teachers usually put children into a group of 4. A group of 4 children can have maximum 6 relationships. There is also balance in even number, which means no child will be left over in a group of 4. The third one is the language experience approach. This approach links young children's literacy practices with their own experience. It will provoke their interest and help children grasp the significance of writing texts. We participated in an activity drawing on this approach. We went on a field trip to a creek, using our senses to observe and taking photos. This reminds me of the first part of the teaching and learning cycle, building field knowledge. Then we drew a picture of the character we imagined living in the creek and created a narrative text. Those are linked to the independent construction of teaching and learning cycle. During this activity, we were all active text users and text analysts, which drew on the 4 resources model. We created texts on purpose, and we thought about using structure and words to express ideas and influence audience. How do tasks developed in the workshop inform my understanding of teaching writing with a reference to Red Creek School? Learning writing can be fun to children. Links writing to children's personal experiences and oral language give different tasks to use their senses to play with literacy practices, facilitating writing learning experience. For example, in Red Creek Primary School, based on the language experience approach, we can take children to the creek or other places to build field knowledge and personal experiences. Then we give different tasks to children according to their needs and levels. For high-level students, let them use the photos they take, and through observation, ask them to write down their own stories and make a book including all the students' articles. For developing students, using the teaching and learning cycle, we can do modeling first, then use some words we come up together to do joint construction, then invite children to build their own text. For beginning writers, we create a sentence for each photo together, identify some special words to build children's vocabulary. Then we break those sentences into individual words. As a group task, ask children to order individual words into correct sentences. At last, invite children to make sentence for a photo on their own. Reflection Week 2. 3 key moments. The first one is thinking about the idea in the Aboriginal teaching video. Children ask it to write down what they want to learn. Provide daily writing practice, combining drawing and letters to communicate ideas. It's a learner-centered approach, drawing on children's needs to facilitate authentic learning. The second one is some strategies used when teaching writing. For example, always use play and games. And demonstration is important. Children observe teachers' writing and realize that there is logic behind it. At least 3 out of 5 days per week writing practices, providing continuous writing opportunities, publish and share children's written texts, gaining feedback from teachers and other readers. The third one is writing development stages. Use differentiation strategy, adjusting ways of teaching according to children's current levels and needs. We analyzed several writing samples and discussed ways to address issues found in those samples. The teaching and learning cycle of the task. We built field knowledge of children's writing development stages through reading and analyzing those samples. We discussed and shared ideas of how to help targeted children write better. The tutor that deconstructed the features of writing samples and modeled some strategies she would use to support further writing. How do tasks inform my understanding of teaching in Red Creek School? In Red Creek School, Foundation to Year 2 students are sharing a classroom. It's essential to use differentiation policy to identify their writing development stages and the capabilities of writing. Regular read books to beginning writers and regular retelling story activities to build their oral language, vocabulary, and basic knowledge of writing, such as alphabet knowledge. Name the letters of English alphabet and know and use the most common sounds. Multiple oral language developing games linked with arts, HPE science display how to write, practicing children's hand-eye coordination. For emergent writers, we can copy the thinking bubble idea, inviting children to write down what they want to learn, then build on what they already know and scaffold new learning catering to their own interests. Develop their phonemic awareness as an active code breaker, demonstrations to review writing processes, daily simple sentence writing practices with a checklist of good writing, including correct use of punctuation and capital letters. For early phase writers, provide regular individual writing opportunities. Read children many types of books, building awareness that writing can have different forms to serve different purposes. Invite children to use text structures to organize and link ideas for purpose. Demonstrate the writing of a range of text types for children. Week 3 Reflection. How does the role of teacher change in the application of teaching and learning cycle? At first, teachers are leaders, including choosing the topic children need to learn according to their needs, explicit demonstration, and leading the process of learning. In the joint construction stage, teachers are supporters and guiders, scaffolding children's learning by guiding, questioning, supporting, and giving feedback. Gradually, children take over their own learning and complete the task independently. Teachers are observers and assessors. Some examples of developing extended classroom talk. For example, we can use interactional scaffolding, listen to what children want to talk, and build on that, giving more questions to provoke thinking. The dominant talk mode in classroom now is initiation, response, evaluation. To extend the dialogue, maybe we can ask more questions instead of give an evaluation quickly. For example, can you tell us more? What makes you think that? The other way is group or pair task. Put children in group talking so children have more freedom and feel safe to express ideas. You also extend children's thinking because children can learn from other people's perspectives. Use pictures, diagrams, videos, and demonstrations to develop field knowledge so children will be more engaged to the topic conversation. Reflect on the process of creating a collage to where the wild things are and how would I adapt the task to Red Creek School. I chose cover to create collage because it gave me a warm feeling. I made connections with this page. It reminded me of the cartoon I saw since my childhood. It reminded me of the beautiful countryside and the sense of belonging. When it comes to teaching, it's important for children to make connections between characters, settings, and events, and to personal experiences. It helps children make meaning out of the text. For foundation year students, I want them to role-play the picture book, which can develop their understanding of the characters. Then ask them to draw a picture of their favorite character and write a sentence below to explain why. Share their ideas with each other. For Year 1 students, I want them to create a storybook of the picture book, including the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I want ask them to write their own endings. For example, will Max really go back home? The king title is so tempting. Will Max choose to stay with the wild things? For Year 2 students, they need to create multimodal text and use text structures to organize ideas for purpose. They would exercise different writing forms in a picture book week. For example, Tuesday we write a birthday party invitation to a monster. Wednesday writes an information report of yourself. Thursday writes a road guidance for the monster. Friday writes a thank you letter to your mom. How do I deepen my understanding of teaching narrative in junior primary classrooms? Examine the elements of a narrative text can involve children with practices which are linked to the 4 resources model. For example, recognize elements of a scene, children become code breakers. Identify what the narrative text tries to express, children become text participants. Figure out how to create cohesive texts and language choices, children become text users. Analyze how the author adjusts strength and focus to influence audience attitude, children become text analysts. Also, we can use a sequence of tasks to examine the narrative. First, we can do sorting and classifying to figure out the structure of the story. Then we identify the literary features of a narrative text, including setting, character, plot. Last, we discuss the language features of the text, what language the author uses to represent different elements of the text. How could I adapt these tasks for the teaching and learning cycle? For the building the field knowledge and support reading, I'd like to read many picture books to them and build a small corner for picture books. Children will need to choose one book to read every day. For the modeling part, explain the literary features using a mental book. What is character, plot, setting, theme? Give me examples. For the joint construction, using a different picture book, this time we try to find out the literary features together, fill out a column of features in a whiteboard. For the independent construction, let children create a simple picture book individually, labeling out their setting, character, and plot. How do I use the tasks for the Red Creek School classroom? For foundation year students, when examining the features of literature, I'd like to let them discuss the characters and making connections to themselves. We discuss what the characters say and do, what relationships do they have with each other. Then invite children to discuss what they will do if they are in those characters' situations and why. For example, ask children to draw a picture under the topic of, if I were Max, I would. For Year 1 students, I'd like to ask them to imitate and invent sound patterns, including alliteration. For example, I chose a picture book which style is large use of alliteration. We read the book and find out the alliteration. Then we co-construct a funny book in which each page describes an animal using an alliteration sentence, with I modeling the first page first. Then I ask students to finish the book with the last animal or an animal they like the most. For Year 2 students, I want children to identify and compare verb groups the author uses to convey ideas and emotions. Ask students to brainstorm the most interesting verbs they know and make a list of it. Choose a scene from the mental picture book. Ask students to list all the verbs they found in the pages. Discuss why the author chooses these verbs and the mood it portrays, confirming if the images of the text reflect the mood. Create their own text. Have students select their own interesting verbs and create a scene or dialogue which use their words to portray a mood. Reflection on Week 5. A significant point for me in Week 5. In class, we finished a non-group chart together and talked about how we could use this idea to teach in an Alto 2 classroom. Inspired by the discussion, we thought about we could use image and sentence together to teach children non-groups, verb groups, and so on. For example, when teaching non-group in Year 1, we use a picture and put an incompleted sentence below to describe the picture, providing indicative hints in the incompleted sentence. Ask children to use non-groups to finish the sentence. Using the same way, we can help children to practice action verb groups, relating verb groups as well. It reminded me of a similar way to teach literacy in China, which calls 看图说话. How will the learning of the first 5 weeks of this course inform my teaching? When teaching writing, it's important to draw on language experience approach, link writing to children's personal experiences. Teachers can give a topic which is related to children, such as a birthday party, Christmas presents, or take children on an excursion to build knowledge. Considering their writing developmental stages, create different tasks to fit in different abilities. When teaching literary texts, the Australian curriculum, English, requires an informed appreciation of literary text. In order to do this, drawing on the teaching and learning cycle, we need to explicitly support students in understanding how the author has used language to create a mood, a setting, a character. In turn, students are able to draw on examples from literary texts in writing their own. When helping students to appreciate the language of literary text, we could choose a literature with care that has effective and imaginative language usage, read it aloud to class, help everyone understand the general message, talk about the intended language features, get them to look for evidence in the text, ask students to consider the impact of these characteristics and how they work, develop a common meta-language for discussing, ask them to point out the action verbs, relating verbs, and noun-groups, create a word list that they may use when writing. When constructing an information report, Thinking about how the image and the words work together to create a vivid information report, we could locate a variety of images to construct an image bank for students. For example, have students make brief video recordings of class excursions and other events. Examine a variety of texts comprising image and language, discuss the various picture kinds, and draw attention to how each image type relates to the accompanying text. Encourage students to use images in their own writing to consider the choice among different kinds of image and to think about their contribution to the meaning.